As a director, when I set up a shot, let's say there are two people in the scene, and one is at one side of the room and one is at the other. With the wide screen, I can hold both, and one is at each end of the frame. When that shot is condensed to fit on your TV tube, chances are the camera cannot hold both of those actors at the same time. So a choice is made usually to be on the one who's talking and then move across the room with the camera to get to the other one when that person is talking, and not being able to hold both, you can't see the reaction from side to side. Now that may not be the choice that I made when I set up the shot, because I want you as the audience to see the person talking and the person who's listening as well. When the picture is changed to fit the small tube, you can't hold both, and the intent of the scene is sometimes changed as a result.
You talking to me?
Did you have a brain tumor for breakfast?
Then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me?
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown.
I'm Peter Venkman.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Man that doesn't spend time in his stomach will never be real mad.
I'm kind of a big deal.
The first rule of Fight Club is do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, baby!
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Hello and welcome to Frame by Frame. I'm Andy, and right next to me is...
I'm Stephen, and today we're going to be talking, as a part of a tribute, the now late Leonard Nimoy.
Yes. Took us a little bit by surprise.
Despite everything, I mean, you just cannot prepare yourself for anything when it comes to death. I mean, it's such a sad loss, and it's still very fresh at the moment. So that's why we're going straight into this,
yeah,
as raw as we possibly go. And it is a substantial loss. And now we normally sit here and we're drinking coffee. And for every episode, Andy has always had the Captain Kirk mug, and I have had the reincarnated Spock mug. But for today's podcast, the Spock mug has a candle inside it instead.
It's what he would have wanted.
He would have wanted us to forego the coffee ritual and give him the tribute.
Well, because I'm captain, I still get the coffee.
Yeah, that's actually my second Spock mug. The first one broke in the dishwasher, and because I said to Catherine, I said, well, in Star Trek 2 he may have died, but then Spock was reincarnated in Star Trek 3. Yeah. So can we buy another one?
Did you have to send a bit of pottery off to a planet? And then the
just a little bit,
spontaneously.
Just a handle, yeah.
Just a handle, yeah.
And then
when you find it was like a little small thimble that cried.
That cried,
but as the
then it became an espresso cup, and then it slowly,
as the crust of the planet was falling apart.
Leonard Nimoy, he lived a very long life, dying at the age of 83. People could be forgiven to think that the man died of old age, but he actually had been ill for quite some time.
See, I wasn't aware that he had any kind of illness, and every time you saw him, he just seemed very full of life.
It's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD.
Doesn't sound like fun.
No, and it's a condition that he attributed to his smoking habit that he'd given up over 30 years prior. So he had been quite a heavy smoker,
right? And
from what I can gather, it all was. He started smoking very early on. He was in the army, and they always got free Camel cigarettes, and everybody expected to smoke, and it was just normal. It just seemed like a part of normal culture. So he never. I mean, nobody ever really spoke about the bad things that went with cigarette smoking. But yeah, 30 years ago he actually did give it up, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that he's always regretted.
Thank God I never smoked.
Yeah. I did a little bit, but it was social smoking, and it was kind of like a part of the wilderness period in Australia that I did that.
Well, I should reiterate that I never smoked cigarettes.
Yeah, that's
I've
something.
smoked other things.
Well, we all have, and that's, again,
For me, cataracts.
it's Australia, and I was a different person there.
He did a funny advertisement, I think it was for BMW, just as the...
Yeah, with Zachary
Quinto, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And, but that's the thing, I mean, you'd think, back in 1991, the whole crew, the original series crew, they were all still alive at that time, back in 1991. I mean, Gene Roddenberry had just passed on the 25th anniversary in 1991. And they'd all said already that The Undiscovered Country was going to be the last one.
Right.
And that was it. And I think, I was only 11 at the time. And I thought, when I watched that in the cinema, I thought, we're never going to see these people again. This is it. This is the last time we'll see them. But how many years later? 24 years later? And they had not stopped. I mean, some of them had slowed down and kind of just done the Star Trek conventions, but William Shatner is still prolific.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy has been so prolific as well. The others are kind of relying more on social networking and just doing their own thing, but they're still present every day on our consciousness, in our lives.
Yeah, is it George Takei?
George Takei.
Takei, that's it. He's hilarious.
He is, but his Twitter page is actually overseen by a creative moderator, so it's not always him.
Oh, right.
He, believe it or not, he does have a life. He actually,
Really?
he's not just social media, because everybody assumes that George Takei is just about social media, but he's just doing his own thing and just leaving it. That's why there's so many different fun things that appear on his feed.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Nimoy.
Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy.
Alright, well, Mr. Nimoy, you're gonna love Optic TV. It's even got Facebook now. So you can tell your friends what shows you're watching, check your wall posts, even broadcast your status to the world.
Fascinating.
It's like you're actually on TV.
I am on TV.
DeForest Kelley said that one of his favourite fan letters was actually from a female, from
any female that ever contacted him.
From a woman who sent him a picture of herself. She was a very attractive young lady, and a marijuana cigarette attached to a piece of card. And he said that the card read, "You've been getting me. What's the word? You've been turning me on for so many years. I wanted to return the favour."
Great.
And he kept that marijuana cigarette, never smoked it, and kept the picture with the it's a part of his. It had been a part of his fan collection.
I'd like to think though when he opened the letter, he's like, "Great Scott, William, get over here!"
But amazing. I mean, DeForest Kelley, another one of those gentle human beings that was so sad when he passed.
Yeah.
Along with Leonard Nimoy, both of these people seem to be very similar, very giving, warm, loving human beings who nobody really had a bad thing to say about them. And he was, that was a sad passing. And I think it was 1995 when he passed.
Yeah.
Jimmy Doohan, a little bit later. Didn't he had his stories as well. I mean, he helped some people from suicide who eventually went into engineering and university and became scientists and teachers, and he had his successes, but he was a little bit more withdrawn from the family, I should say.
I have a great deal of respect of actors that have lived through the 60s and survived it. And not got drawn into that sort of culture that happened around then, and was still relevant.
Clean.
Now.
That's it. I didn't think of it that way. I mean, they were so present and there, but they didn't get swept away in the whole rush of fever that went about the 70s.
Because I always say this to people, that if I'd been in my 20s in the 60s, I wouldn't have survived the 60s.
You wouldn't be alive.
No. I'd have I'd have been hanging out with Hendrix and...
We know what we were both like. I mean, like I say, I'm the one who always chickened out, so I think I might have just been okay. But it would have sucked.
But then saying that, we might have ended up on Star Trek. That would have been nice.
That would have saved us.
That would have saved us.
And that's the thing, I think Star Trek is one of those things that everybody kind of mocks and says, oh, Star Trek is so... It's stupid and this, and it's so old-fashioned and geeky, and it's really naff, but they don't get what it actually really does for people and what it has been for people.
Well, it was such an important show for many, many reasons.
Yeah.
Like the first black
interracial
kiss, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's so far ahead of its time, people forget this.
They do, and unfortunately, I mean, there was, when I went to work the next day after Leonard Nimoy's passing, I said to one of the younger lads, he's only 20, and I said, sad news about Nimoy, and he goes, who? He played Spock in Star Trek. I said, oh no, I never watched that crap. And I was like, it's not crap, and he actually does a hell of a lot more than just Star Trek.
Yeah.
And you've got a list of his films there. I think that's it speaks for itself. He has not stopped working.
I've got a list.
Yay.
Starts at 1951.
That's Rhubarb.
Yeah, Rhubarb. He played a young ball player in Queen for a Day. He was a chief high diver segment as Leonard Nimoy, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe his character just didn't have a name on screen, so they just...
So can I bash through a list?
You can bash through a list momentarily. Let me just get the music set. Okay. And go.
Right, 1952. Kid Monk Baroni. Francis Goes to West Point. Zombies of the Stratosphere. 4-Star Playhouse, 1953. Old Overland Trail. Fireside Theatre, TV series. Them, uncredited. Your Favourite Story. Right, now we're into 1955. Luke and the Tenderfoot, Navy Log. 1956, The Man Called X, West Point. Highway Patrol. 1957 to 1958, Harbour Command is a TV series. He played Fred Garrison. The Silent Service, which was another TV series. Broken Arrow, another TV series that went from 1957 to 1958.
Not the film.
No, not the film.
Certainly not.
The Brain Eaters, Professor Cole, 1957 to 1958. Mackenzie's Raiders, Steve Canyon, 26 Men, Dragnet. I didn't know he was in Dragnet.
Yeah,
that was in 1954, and he was in it again in 1959.
And I think Gene Roddenberry was a writer for that show,
right?
If I'm not mistaken.
The Rough Riders, lots of TV series.
Yes, yeah.
Colt 45, Tombstone Territory, Lock Up, M Squad, Sea Hunt, Tate,
Sorry,
Outlaws, The Rebel, Bonanza, The Tall Man, Tales of Wells Fargo, Rawhide, Two Faces West, 87th Precinct, Twilight Zone. He was in an episode
Quality of Mercy,
1961. Kane's 100, Lara and Me, The Untouchables, a TV series. He was called Packy. Okay.
Oh, Paquet. Oh, that's a tricky one. There.
Yeah. Combat, The Man Called Shenandoah, Daniel Boone, Get Smart, TV series again. Death Watch, Gunsmoke, TV series. Valley of Mystery, Assault on
the Wane, yeah.
TV movie.
Yeah,
Do you remember that?
I've got it.
He was in Mission Impossible.
He was, yeah, for a good long time.
That. Yeah, it was 71.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the series that I'd love to eventually own, because it's I remember watching it as a kid, but it's never on television, and it's never, I wouldn't want to watch it on television. It's like Columbo. You just want to really binge watch it. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Right, Catlow.
Yes.
Night Gallery. He was in Columbo.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Love that episode. He was a doctor, I believe.
The Alpha Caper. Rex Harrison presents Stories of Love. He was called Nick in that. He was in a little thing called Star Trek. He did a few episodes of Star Trek.
And the animated series.
Yes. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yay!
1975.
Woo! Love that movie.
Stephen sort of likes that film.
It's okay. It's one of my favourite films.
Do you want to talk about that now?
We can do. Or do you want to go for the rest of the list, or are you breaking it down now just to...
Well, now we're getting into some of the Star Trek
Yeah,
the motion picture, the films and stuff.
So let's just go. So start with Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
There are very special films that plunge you into a world of total terror, unleashing emotions so intense, so awesome, there is no defense. Prepare yourself. From deep space, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, rated PG. Starts this week at a theater near you.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's definitely a Donald Sutherland's film.
Yeah.
Well, I should say it's actually Donald Sutherland's hair that owns that film. Which he was actually quite paranoid about throughout the making of the film, and Philip Kaufman said, "Don't worry, it'll be great," and it is. It's
isn't the same hair he had for Don't Look Now?
It's similar, yeah, but I think he let it really go. Just really let it grow a little to the point where it was more afro, and I think he was more worried about the representation of what afro was for the film. And he says, "Oh yeah, absolutely fine. It'll be absolutely fine." I mean, I've got the photo novel there, and if you flick through it, it's quite a.
Well, it's been a long time since I've seen this film, and I wanted to watch it again last night, but I didn't get a chance. So I will be using this book to make it look like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, in
somewhere in the outermost limits of space, far beyond man's mindful speculations, a wide expanse of seemingly desolate wasteland issues forth evidence of a determined undertaking, a haze of organic matter, deep in the throes of intense labour, churns in preparation for departure.
You see, it's been lifted directly from the screenplay.
Yeah.
There's so much more going on in the screenplay that you just don't know. I mean, if they actually had the narration on the screen, that would have been way too much, but that was beautiful, man.
Thank you.
You tell anybody to go and watch this movie and they're like, because it's called Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and everybody will just straight away think stupid B movie.
Yeah.
You tell them that Leonard Nimoy's in it, and they're kind of really okay. Donald Sutherland, who's that? Brooke Adams.
Well, Donald Sutherland's the bloke out of Hunger Games now, isn't he?
Yeah, and I know it's weird how people suddenly become of the moment rather than. And
see, I remember this film, and it really sort of got under my skin. No pun intended.
no pun intended.
Well,
that was good. No, it does. Yeah, it's another one of those. The sound design. Denny Zeitlin was the guy who was approached to do the music for this film, and he had no idea what to do at first. That he was supposed to be doing an orchestral score,
right?
But then they heard what he did with the jazz, and they said, "We want you to do that. That's great. Just bring that in." So he literally never done a soundtrack before. So when he did, he kind of wanted to kind of blend the sound of the mixing and the actual sound effects, the organic genetic throbbing that kind of went through the film. It was very, very.
Had that been done before?
It's such a marriage between score and sound design. I'm not sure. I think it was very specific though. I mean, this was actually really on,
because they homage it, don't they, in The World's End quite a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Which we've talked about previously.
Yes. Yeah, and it is. It's about the fetal heartbeat that's kind of threaded throughout that movie. The sound design is one of my favourite aspects of the movie.
Right.
But it doesn't just take over, because you're just so caught in what you're looking at, you just can't believe what you're hearing at the same time. It's...
The cat likes this film as well.
Yeah, she says you watch it way too many times and feed me.
I've lived in this city all my life, but somehow today I felt everything had changed. People were different.
Will you please trust me?
It's happening now.
It was a nightmare.
Help! You're coming!
Officer, I would like to report 4 bodies in my backyard.
You have to stay awake.
Brooke Adams, we kind of see the film through her eyes.
Yeah. Brooke Adams.
And
do you remember that funny part where Leonard Nimoy goes, "That's right, just relax. Now you're going to be all right. You want to go home now? Will you come and see me tomorrow? We'll all talk, the three of us. Okay."
Yeah, I do. And not referring to the photo novel, I believe that's the scene where Donald Sutherland takes Brooke Adams, because Brooke Adams thinks that her husband is changing.
Yes.
She's been observing him through the window. He's been meeting people, exchanging gifts, and she's a little bit paranoid. Oh, by the way, she works as a biochemist. She
Always
works,
helps.
And it kind of helps.
You think it's true that if you think you're losing your mind, then you're not? I know this is going to sound insane. Jeffrey is not Jeffrey. I mean, on the outside, Jeffrey is still Jeffrey, but on the inside, I can tell that there is something different. Something is missing.
What?
Emotion, feelings. He's just not the same person. Really, do you know what I mean? I know it sounds crazy.
But bless her heart. I mean, she's a biochemist. She's got this pod, and her husband or boyfriend has kind of been taken over by this pod. But of course, Donald Sutherland thinks it's psychological, so he takes her to Leonard Nimoy, who is literally doing a book. Supposed to be doing a book reading or a book signing, and it turns out to become this circle of people who think that all their partners and their friends and family are different. They've changed.
Right.
And so he's spending the whole time, instead of doing what he's doing, helping people. Now, does that not sound like Leonard Nimoy?
It does.
That he would actually just drop everything and so that he can actually help people.
Yeah.
So this was a perfect role for him, I think.
Because he has a scar on the back of his neck, and when his hair is long, you can't see it.
Yes.
He went to have a haircut today.
Yes.
And the scar was gone.
No, it's still there.
Of course it's still there. What did you expect? He's still Ted. He's still
Excuse
your
me, can I
husband.
just say one
Please.
thing?
He's still your husband,
But
Ted.
I know
Please.
something that you...
Catherine.
Could I just say
Please.
one thing?
Catherine. Who's this behind you?
Ted.
That's right.
That woman's husband's not her husband. I saw him today with Jeffrey. He's one of them. And she knows about it, and nobody's helping her.
That's not true. Somebody's helping.
I'm glad you've heard that. David Kibner, Elizabeth Driscoll.
Hi. I've been hearing it all week. It's getting very popular.
What's that? What's getting popular?
I was trying to tell you that I also
You know somebody who's changed.
Can we go
Yes.
outside and talk about
The guy in the what's that? Oh, is that the?
I thought that was like a really nasty vagina.
It's actually a dog with the face of a man.
Okay.
And apparently that there was this kind of. But it's the kind of thing that you'd expect to see in a John Carpenter film, I should actually say. Not an homage to...
That is definitely something... Right, yeah, I'm looking at a dog with the face of a human being licking its own nose. It's actually quite grotesque.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, they continue along undetected until Elizabeth looks down and lets out a scream. Very good. As she sees the hideous byproduct of an injured pod, a mutation of both the banjo player and his dog.
Oh, the banjo player.
As they are turned upon, Matthew and Elizabeth break into a run. Get them! Get them! Say pod people.
So Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum and Nancy Cartwright, all four of them go on the run, and they meet up with Leonard Nimoy, and eventually they all kind of succumb to the weed. Yeah. Which is kind of what happens to everybody in the 70s. All apart from Veronica Cartwright. She's kind of like the only one left in the end, screaming while Donald Sutherland points at her.
But that's still...
very frightfully.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The face he pulls...
I know, and it's like, yeah. I mean, look at Andy's just trying, and you just don't have it.
I just don't have the face of Donald Sutherland.
I wonder if Keith Sutherland could do it. In fact, there's a guy at my workplace who looks just like Donald Sutherland.
Get him to do it.
I'm going to get him to do it.
We'll take a picture and tweet it.
I've wanted to kind of. I've been trying to get feelers out to find out if he can act, because if we can have a Donald Sutherland lookalike in one of our short films, and just call him Donald, and people will just go, "Oh my god!" because he really does look. Yeah. He does really look like him.
We should do a shot-by-shot remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Well, like they did Raiders of the Lost Ark. Have you seen that there's a fan film out on Raiders of the Lost Ark about
I haven't.
1982 after seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark, a group of students got together and tried to make shot-for-shot Raiders of the Lost Ark. They almost finished it, but the two lads fell out over a girl. Fell out with each other over a girl. And then they decided that they would get together 30 years later to reshoot the last scene that with the aeroplane that they hadn't actually done. They to get back together, and they made a whole documentary about the whole thing. It's going to be it's currently showcasing on the IMDb trailer.
Right.
Trailer wave of trailers, you know, how they have a flick through of all the trailers. It's in there, it's called Raiders, the best fan film made ever.
Have you heard they're thinking about continuing Indiana Jones but using Chris Pratt instead?
No, I didn't realise.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg's thinking about it.
Well, he's kind of thinking he's got to do it somehow. I mean,
I just don't know.
I think they should just leave it alone.
I'd leave it alone, or just do one really good film where Indy dies in it.
Yes.
And then leave it
Kill
there.
him. Kill him, do it. Yeah, I mean, J.J. Abrams is keeping Star Trek alive. He's doing a fine job of it, and now...
Well, we'll see.
Well,
I'm sure he will
do.
do.
I mean, Simon Pegg is a big fan. I don't think he's going to let anything crazy happen with it. I mean, they can't. Really?
No,
I mean,
I don't think so.
If you love Star Trek enough, and you honour the fans that love Star Trek enough, you do not mess around with it. But as far as look at what they're going to do with Ghostbusters. I mean, they might as well just have the four women from Bridesmaids in the film, and just make a completely different film with them four doing something supernatural, but doesn't have to call it Why did they have to call it Ghostbusters?
Exactly. Well, you've got a brand. And they want to make that's an instant brand,
but they need
recognition.
They need to have the balls to actually go in cold and try something new.
Yeah.
I mean,
as far as I can tell, it is going to be a completely new story, new set of people.
But it's still called Ghostbusters.
Well, we'll see.
TM. C.
Ghostbusters, maybe.
Ghostbusters. I think that'll be sexist. It's kind of you can't call actresses anymore. They're actors.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a thing for about a decade now, but not everybody wants to talk about it.
Because I'm Dunker. That's the thing with me. If I said someone's an actress and said, I'm not an actress, I'm an actor.
I know, I'm an actor.
What's bad about being called an actress?
Yeah, just get on with it. It's the whole political correct thing, and then political correctness becomes this whole thing where if you actually point it out that it's wrong, then all of a sudden everybody knows that it's wrong. But if you don't point it out, then nobody really cares anyway. Only until you make an issue of something that it actually becomes an issue.
You know who was politically correct? Leonard Nimoy.
He was, and let's get back to him. Bless him.
No, I think you've got more to say about Invasion of Body Snatchers, haven't you?
Sound design, the acting is exceptional. I mean, Leonard Nimoy's part, he is very energetic in this film, very full of...
He's not Spock at all.
No, he's not Spock at all, and he's full of... he's trying to bring emotions out of other people. Even though he does appear to be the most sane person in the whole film. And you know, you said about there's one actor, I can't remember who you said, a couple of shows ago.
Right.
I think it was you mentioned about the guy in Foxcatcher who, no matter what he's in, you feel safe. Like John Candy.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, you know, if you're going to see him in a film, you feel safe when you see him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the same goes for Leonard Nimoy.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that.
Even when, I mean, in DeForest Kelly as well. I mean, even if you see him as an evil Mexican at the end of a Western film back in the 50s, you kind of feel comfortable because it's like, at last, there he is. You know, you've been waiting from the whole film, and there he is. He's a bad guy. Good for him. You know, he's just shot two people. Good stuff.
And plus, he's a doctor, so he could fix them.
Well, he might be
with his magic. Widdly.
See, that's the thing. You cannot think of Leonard Nimoy and not think of Mr. Spock, and that's
he's defined by that character.
It's difficult to kind of not talk about Star Trek,
because when we've said this before, when we watched T.J. Hooker, that's not William Shatner playing T.J. Hooker. It's Captain Kirk's took a year off. Captain a starship to be a policeman on Earth for a while. When you see Leonard Nimoy in another, it's Spock playing a different part.
And I think it's the fandom that's created that.
Yeah.
The fandom is so solid. You can't see Mark Hamill doing anything other than Luke Skywalker. Carrie Fisher tried to do other things. I mean, she did all right in comedy. The Burbs was very different to what she's done in Star Wars.
Yeah, and she's really good in When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, exactly. She has, but they're no longer prolific because people don't want to touch them.
But going
because
back to
of
Mark
that.
Hamill,
Yeah,
he's in Kingsman, the
Right.
Secret Service, and he's like this British professor, and he's brilliant.
Great.
You wouldn't know. He's got this beard. He's got down the accent. Fantastic.
Yeah, good, yeah.
And yeah, you wouldn't know it's him.
But
Well, you know it's him. You think because you see him and say, "Oh, it's Mark Hamill," but he's completely different than Luke. So yeah, it's good.
But don't you think that it's that typecasting is a very dangerous thing to kind of get into, unless you can make a living out of the typecast, such as Leonard Nimoy has made a living of being Spock, that you're not able to do those passion projects because there's a chance that that production company will reject you, that casting agency will reject you because people will think, well, people are only going to see Spock. I don't want them to pollute this character.
Yeah, but there's an element of that and an element of I'm known for Spock. If I all of a sudden come as this really heavyweight murderer in a film, he's going to upset a lot of fans.
Yeah,
because they don't want to see him as a rapist or something in a film that he might be acting incredibly well in.
Yeah.
Because he's Spock, and that's his thing.
It's like if William Shatner took the role of the woodsman that Kevin Bacon did as a paedophile.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't want to see that.
No.
You just wouldn't want to see that. You want to still see them doing something that kicks ass.
Yeah.
Whilst at the same time stays true to who they are, and with that little bit of a nod to the fandom. That, you know, no matter what they do, they try and put that little bit of a thing about it. But I kind of wish that we'd been able to see, especially DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy, not so much William Shatner. William Shatner's been able to break out and do his own thing pretty much for anything. I mean, Boston Legal was incredible departure. Love Denny Crane. I would be his drinking buddy anytime.
The thing with Shatner, he became a parody of himself, and then became sort of relevant again.
Yeah, recarved that relevance, and he's become. I mean, he's done so many different. I mean, he's done sitcoms, The Shit My Dad Says, and he's tried documentary. I mean, Leonard Nimoy also did documentary in Search Of series in the 70s, and he's got that. In America, people know him for that outside of Star Trek. If you're not into Star Trek, then you knew him from that.
Right, okay.
So he was able to do the Carl Sagan thing and just be a little bit more relevant to non-fiction as well as fiction. But yeah, I mean, as far as Invasion of the Body Snatchers goes, he was an affable present. And
do you remember that time when he said,
"No,
I just gave her a psychological band-aid, Matthew. I should talk to her some more. I could bring her by my office tomorrow around 4.
What's the matter with her?
It's like there's some kind of hallucinatory flu going around.
People seem to get over it in a day or two. All I can do is treat the symptoms.
Yeah, that's...
Spock would never have said that.
Star Trek The Motion Picture.
1978.
Yeah, that's what I was confusing. I get those dates wrong with those two films.
Yeah.
But Star Trek The Motion Picture, directed by Robert Wise. But
what do you think of that film?
What do you think about that film?
I can't remember it.
I love it as background.
Okay.
But it's a background movie.
See, it's difficult for me because I'm looking at this list. It's got Star Trek The Motion Picture, and then just right above it, 4 years later, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which is a great film.
It is a great film, and it's a different film. That is Nicholas Meyer taking the helm, forgetting everything that happened in Star Trek, completely giving them new uniforms, a new vision, a new style, if you will.
Yeah.
But thinking of it in a different way. He thought about it as submarines and in wartime. He did kind of create the kind of a military aspect to it, which in Star Trek 1 they were totally in sci-fi jumpsuits and just staring out at the view screen.
But what they did quite good with these is this started a thread then of a narrative to run through quite a few films, isn't it?
He set it up really so well.
because Khan was out the original series, wasn't he?
He was Space Seed, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, which is one of the best rated episodes of season 1, I believe.
Yeah, so that's quite clever of the writers to think, right,
bring him back
because he's one of the best loved villains.
And I'm glad they didn't bring back Harry Mudd or the Gorn or the Laughing Kid, who actually ends up the kid who's in this alien costume who pretends to be this big monster.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I don't know what his name is, so there's no point in dwelling on that. But they could have chosen so many other different characters from the original series.
Yeah.
But they stuck with that because they knew that Ricardo Montalban was available.
Still look good though, because quite a few years later, and he still looked quite, he
still worked out.
Yeah, he was still good.
And he still killed with those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, some people could look at him and think, yeah, the way you're saying the lines is a little bit precious and pedantic. But he's a theatrical actor. He's not he comes from a theatrical background, so he is going to come with a certain gusto, And what a brilliant portrayal! What a really memorable film.
Yeah, a great film. And the ending is effective.
Yeah, because they actually do follow through and actually allow a character to die.
Yeah, the main character to die.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's why when I found out about, he died, I immediately did the silly thing and go straight to Twitter. And that last tweet that he'd said.
Yes.
Which is very poignant. Right, yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
A life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved, except in memory. And I was listening, I read that as I listened to the epilogue of...
the soundtrack of Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
I was listening... Do you know what? It's funny when you said that, because you posted it onto the frame-by-frame page.
Yeah.
I was listening to it too in the conservatory at the same time, because I thought that, what do I want to hear right now?
It just seems so...
Apt,
and yeah. So, yeah, I welled up. I really did.
And I had a good glass of whiskey beside me, and it was a very sad night.
It was. It's strange, isn't it? These things affect you.
Yeah, it really does.
The same thing with Robin Williams. Someone who just seems to be. He's safe. He'll always be there. We'll never lose Spock, and then he just goes.
Yeah, but like I say,
Barack Obama.
he was touched.
He said something about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you read that?
He did. Yeah, but I think that for someone like Leonard Nimoy, has such a strong identity on the good wills and the positive personality that should embody America. This is how you should be thinking, people. This is who you should be taking lessons from. It's this guy. He's got it right. So many people have got it wrong. He's literally the role model that everybody should actually be looking forward to. And I think he's just trying to reach out for that and kind of remind people that we should pay attention to this right now. I mean, I think he was a fan, obviously.
Yeah.
So good on him.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I say, I mean, they all retired in 1991 from the actual full ensemble cast of Star Trek, and it was amazing to stay with him and actually observe his life then on and kind of share it. I mean, especially on the social network on Twitter. He joined Twitter in 2012, I think.
Right.
It was quite late on, really, but he kind of owned it. Him and George Takei literally just, those are the two people you go onto Twitter to kind of find out what they're up to.
Yeah, and Stephen Fry, just them three.
Yeah, and and not a day goes by. I mean, when he said that that last line about the garden, life is like a garden, perfect moments can be had. It was then announced that he was hospitalized with chest pains.
Right.
And I was literally just checking up to see if he was gonna tweet in the next day or two, just to kind of tell everybody, close call, on my way home again.
Yeah.
LLAP. I was kind of just looking for that post. I didn't think, not for one moment did I think that he was going to go.
Sad man.
Yeah. Still waiting for that post.
He had a good, long life. He did a lot of things. He inspired a lot of people.
He was a brilliantly innovative actor, but he also worked collaboratively. He recognized the important contributions made by everybody. And I think that's what made him a good director as well. And since we had been working together for a long time, as a director, he could speak to us in shorthand. So his many, many gifts included his ability to work with many people.
He was loved by a lot of people. It's sad that you have to be reminded that life is that short.
Right. Okay. So let's climb out of the somber moment and talk about his later films.
Well, he did 1986 did a voiceover in the Transformers the movie. If you remember that.
Well, yeah, and
it says here Galvatron, but I didn't think he was Galvatron in it.
Yeah, Galvatron. This is 1986 though. This is the animated film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the animated film. But he did come back and
I think he came back in the to voice his Sentinel Prime in the Transformers: Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
So he actually had a little bit of Bay money.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if anybody's
slept with the enemy for a little bit.
But if anybody's going to have a bit of Bay money, he deserves it. You know, little slice of the cake for him.
And it's just a voiceover, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Star Trek: The Voyage Home.
Star Trek: The Voyage Home, his second directorial, because he directed Star Trek 3. What happened to Star Trek 3?
I know he directed The Search for Spock.
There we go. He directed Search for Spock, and they liked him so much they let him direct the fourth one, which is his favourite film, by the way, Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
Right.
I love that one with the whales.
I like it. I like that film. It's not my favourite, but I like that film.
But it's very accessible. I mean, my mother even knows what it is, and if you're listening, it's the one with the whales, because that's what everybody called it. If you're not into Star Trek, you know that film as the one with the whales.
What I liked about it is they played with comedy a little bit more. It's a bit more playful.
Because they've been through life and death together through the last couple of films. They wanted to lighten up a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think it's just let loose, and I think that's why everybody had a good time with that, because they remembered what it was like to be a fun family.
Now, did Leonard Nimoy, was he involved in a lot of like animal welfare and?
I think so. I mean, he does tweet about it. He was tweeting a lot about the fact that I wonder if we'd have made a film about the elephants back in 1986, that they would have thrived as much as the humpback whales have since that movie, because the humpback whales have been thriving, and he's kind of been keeping an eye on that. I think he's always kind of just looked in and overseen certain areas of that. I mean, I'm not too sure about his charity work. Let's take a look.
I love that. I love the scene where there's those fishermen who are about to attack, they're about to harpoon that whale.
Yes.
And then the Klingon ship just uncloaks in front of them.
Brilliant. It's a beautiful scene, actually.
Yeah, it's really
nice and misty and wet, and when it actually goes down into the water, it's and they all climb out and start splashing around. You know, that scene was actually shot at the Paramount car park.
Was it?
They've got one car park which is actually it doubles as a pool.
Right.
So when they feel as though they have to shoot something there, they just close off the car park. They raise the edges and they just fill it with water. They just flood it.
Right.
And
it looked like they were having a ball that day.
Yeah, I
big
think
smiles.
So. They were close to home. They didn't have to worry too much. They were going to have a big lunch and a steak and a baked potato.
Yeah.
And that's it. Bit of a splash. He's actually quite modest and careful with his charities. He's part of the American Cancer Society, the American Foundation for Equal Rights, and the Nimoy Foundation. Now, the Nimoy Foundation
is about him just getting money to himself.
I don't think so. It's established in 2003 by Leonard Nimoy to encourage, recognise and support the work of artists, giving grants to artists in residence programs in the US. So he's very much about keeping close to his own.
Michael Bay did the same thing. He started a production company that gave money to up-and-coming directors who have a vision and want to make a film.
Yeah.
Apparently. But what's actually come out of that company is just reworkings of horror films. You know, like the Friday the 13th new film and the new Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff
so
like
it's
that.
basically re-owning all the things that we think are so great that were actually owned by great directors.
Yeah.
And now he has a piece of all of them.
The final front.
I think we need to leave Michael Bay out of this.
Yeah,
we
I
need
want
to
to stay
leave him way
positive.
alone. But yeah, hold on. The causes: cancer, civil rights, creative arts, health, lesbian, gay, bi, transgender support, and miscellaneous causes. I'm sure there's some animal welfare.
Yeah, just because
things
with
going
the Voyage Home, there is a huge animal welfare message in the film, isn't there?
Definitely.
We've got The Final Frontier.
Yeah, directed by his pal William Shatner.
Yeah,
and
I don't mind that film either, to be honest.
I enjoy watching it. I'll still watch it, and there's so many good moments there. It's just a shame he just didn't have the budget. That was all. I mean, if he had the budget and the encouragement to make a great picture, then Final Frontier would have been one of the best.
Yeah, I'm right in thinking it's the one where they're thinking they're going to God.
Yes,
only, but it's actually the old satellite that went out there years ago. And
yeah, and they use the science of Christopher Nolan to travel to the centre of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And yeah, which, you know, it kind of falls apart at that point. But the triangle is still there. The William Shatner, the DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy triangle.
The Trinity.
The Trinity is consistent throughout the whole series, and I don't think it misses a beat in that one either.
In Unification 1 and 2 in The Next Generation, Spock is in them.
He does, yeah, and that was a bit of a surprise, I think. Everybody was shocked to see Spock appearing in The Next Generation. Of course, people understood a little bit more that the Vulcans live a lot longer, and it's kind of helpful to have that. But not only him, but Spock's father, Sarek, who is one of the biggest alumni of Star Trek, because he was in the original series as a Romulan. He was in all the films as Spock's father, and he appeared in his own episode, Sarek, in The Next Generation as well. Mark Leonard having one of the most incredible voices to listen to.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I mean, I have his audiobook Sarek when I was a kid, and I just loved listening to him.
Yeah, I remember. Why did you leave him, Kirk?
Why did you leave him on Genesis?
Yeah.
Spock trusted you, and you denied him his future. I saw no future.
You big nerd.
Oh, I love it.
The Undiscovered Country?
Now, that was supposed to be their sign-off, and and to say that it was a sign-off, of course, Leonard Nimoy didn't work again in Star Trek until 2009. So he didn't do Generations.
No.
Like William Shatner did. And unfortunately, I wish he hadn't, because
it's not very good.
They ruined the death of Kirk, I think. But there we go. I mean, that's when Leonard Nimoy walked away from Star Trek for a little while and started to rediscover himself.
Yeah. And then we've got a load of TV movies. So we've got he did
a few games.
A few games. He was on Star Trek Judgment Rights.
Yeah.
The Halloween Tree. The Page Master. Bonanza, Under Attack. The Outer Limits.
Bonanza, Under Attack? What's
got a TV movie?
Okay.
95 did The Outer Limits, which
yes.
was on the back of The X-Files, but nowhere near as good.
Yeah, that's true.
He obviously was in The Simpsons.
You know which episode, right?
The Springfield Files and Marge versus the Monorail.
Yeah, the Monorail episode is one of the most famous Simpsons episodes, and he was the celebrity that went to open the monorail on its first journey.
Right.
So it's a fun episode.
David, a TV movie. We've got Duckman, Private Duck, Family Man, TV series. He was in Where No Duckman Has Gone Before.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The First Men in the Moon, The Lost World, Brave New World, Invasion America, which was a TV series. General Conrad, he played.
It's funny because William Shatner did Invasion Iowa. I think he took it a little bit small. It's okay.
Then Sinbad, Beyond the Veil of Mists, Becca, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, To Boldly Go.
Becker. He was in Becker with Ted Danson. Just
Becker.
Yeah, that was a series.
I enjoyed Becker.
That it didn't get the praise and that it should have, and it was kind of kept very hidden on Comedy Central.
Yeah, I do remember Becker.
Oh, actually, no, it was on the Paramount channel.
Yeah, it was Paramount. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't last very long. That channel, did it?
No,
I don't think it's still. I don't.
It's called Channel 5 now.
Nice. Okay, next. And then Atlantis. You got To Boldly Go and.
Yeah, Sci-Fi Visionaries, video short, Reflections on Spock, Kiss and Tell, Romance in the 23rd Century. Lovely.
Video short. These are video shorts.
Yeah, loads of them.
A lot of shorts, video games, video shorts.
Yeah. So he was working, and then obviously 2009, Star Trek.
A small part, just a small part. But he got to work with Simon Pegg for the most part in that, and have a little bit of FaceTime with Zachary Quinto. And
Chris Pine. He ends up being ditched on that snow planet, doesn't he? And that's where Spock saves Kirk.
Oh yes, Kirk is there with Scotty.
Yeah, because Spock, old Spock and Kirk find Scotty by going to that base.
That makes sense. Yeah, I completely forgot he was actually present at the time.
A little bit contrived that.
Yeah, a little bit too.
I honestly love I love the 2009 Star Trek, fun. And I really like Into Darkness. I thought that was great, but. Yeah,
I was a little bit disappointed with the lack of ability to tell a pure story without actually going for the end of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan repeat, and then not following through on actually letting Kirk be dead till the next film. They chickened out a little bit.
They did,
and I kind of don't love that ending.
See, there's a part of me completely agrees with you.
Yeah.
Another part of me
fanboy
when
says,
and when Kirk dies and Spock goes, "Gone!" and then I was like, "Go kick his ass!" I was really into it.
Really?
Yeah, proper.
You see, I think you have an ability to let things go, which is probably why I chicken out on all those threesomes that I could have had. I chicken out on the movie as well, and I think that's probably you actually are able to let yourself go.
It's all surface.
It is all surface, yeah.
But what surface?
Yeah, it's a very fun surface, and that's why I always find it very hard to let things go and just enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think I should do because Leonard would have wanted me to.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it that way.
But would it be logical to let it go?
From far beyond the galaxies, I've journeyed to this place to study the behavior patterns of the human race. And I find them highly illogical.
Okay, so...
yeah. So we've just got a few more Star Trek games, video shorts.
Well, okay, let's talk about Star Trek Online.
Okay. Oh yeah, because you played this, didn't you?
I still do. I'm still on there. I mean, I go in every so often. I mean, I went in that night after chatting to you about Leonard Nimoy. I went into Star Trek Online. I said to Catherine, I'm not going to come up just yet. I just want to see what's happening on online, just to see what people are doing.
Right.
And I got my little avatar character, just walking around, just checked to see what my money was doing. I thought, you always have to make sure nobody's robbed me. I don't know why I always feel as though I'm going to get robbed.
I think because you live in a neighbourhood where people get robbed.
I know, but it's like my online avatar is safe. Nothing's going to happen. It's like, is he going to be crawling on the ground with blood coming out of his because you got raped or mugged? I don't know. Cut that bit. But yeah, so I took my character on a little trip to Vulcan, and when I landed down at Vulcan and I saw this, and I'm just going to show you. I'm going to put the pictures on the YouTube version of this podcast.
Okay.
Because I think you'll be quite impressed with. I went down to Vulcan, and there's a little monument at the centre. This was one of the instances in Vulcan.
Right.
They have about 20 different dimensions so that all the characters can visit at the same time. If there's too many characters in one instance, they open up a few more so that more people can come in. So this was just one instance where over 50 people were all just standing there in solidarity around this the central point of Vulcan. This was another instance, people doing Vulcan hand salutes. Can you actually see that? That's just a geeky guy who
he's doing the wrong salute.
He's doing the Red Dwarf salute, and everybody was just standing there, and it was quite touching.
Yeah,
and it made me realise that this is the first online digital memorial service. Everybody who was a big fan of Star Trek.
Internet's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all.
Not all the time.
And I love this, and I've actually been tweeting a few of the people who are actually putting these posters up and just saying, you know, good for you, and you know, I think it's important to recognise it. I mean, Spock was a big part of this game. Leonard Nimoy voiced every single promotion. He was the one who told you, "Well done, Lieutenant. Well done, Captain. Well done, Admiral." He offered his voice for all the narration throughout the whole game, and yeah, he was your guiding light throughout the whole game. So it's
see, that's actually made me want to play it.
It really is worth going into. I mean, you probably wouldn't write again. I mean, I haven't been in there for a while. I mean, even people just started to bring balloons in to the game. You can actually use these blowers that blow balloons. And it's just nice, because these are all people you can just go up to and you can dance in front of them, salute them, and then just chat to them in a little box. And they're all real people just there. They all, by their own initiative, went down to the Vulcan set piece and wanted to just stand there and pay respect.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So that's, you know, that really blew me away, and I thought it was quite important. That once again, Star Trek has provided a new way of doing things.
50 years on, and it still
touches you, still relevant. Yeah. So what's left?
Not much, really.
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
Transformers.
You know.
He's you know.
Obviously, he was in Into Darkness in 2012, which I think was his last.
His very last.
Acting piece.
Yeah.
And then I just made a little list, because you know what I'm like about lists, of the things he did as a director.
Mm-hmm.
So,
leaflet drop.
All right.
Okay.
A Night Gallery, directed TV series. Vincent TV movie, The Power of Matthew Starr. He directed an episode of T.J. Hooker, The Decoy.
Yes.
He directed, as we know, Star Trek 3: In Search of Spock, Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home. He directed 3 Men and a Baby.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that film for a little while.
Okay.
Because it's quite significant. I mean, it's not sci-fi.
No.
It's complete departure. It is New York. He loves New York, and and he was actually directing this movie with 3 very strong male leads.
Yeah, who are all really at the top of the game as popularity is.
Yeah, they were. I mean, Steve Guttenberg had been popular because of Police Academy films and Cocoon.
And Short Circuit. And
Tom Selleck had been that dude
who had a moustache.
Yeah, what was it?
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI, and he'd been in Coma and a couple of other things, but. And then you've got Ted Danson, who had been Cheers since the very beginning, 1982.
Yeah, and he'd done some great films as well. Some funny films. What was that film he did with Whoopi Goldberg?
Something Made in America, wasn't it?
That was it, Made in America.
Yeah,
he was so funny in that film. It was really good.
Exactly, and he's Ted Danson is another one of those who you feel safe with when you watch him. I mean, but how safe can you get with a baby and 3 of the most safest guys you could think of?
Yeah.
You can't think of. I mean, again, it's a triangle. It's that trinity, and I think Leonard Nimoy probably saw that trinity.
Yeah.
From his own experience of working as a trinity throughout Star Trek, that 3 seems to be quite symbolic in his.
It just seems quite odd, doesn't it, for him to have picked this film to direct, because he's not directed that many things.
No, he hasn't. But
and it sort of jumps out, as being odd,
different.
Do-do-de-yo-do. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Do-do-de-yo-do. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Do-do-do-do. I hate to leave you, but I really must say, good night, sweetheart. Good night. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Baby, I just can't treat you right. Well, I hate to leave you, baby. I don't mean maybe, because I love you so.
I watched the sequel around Christmas time again, And yeah, it's not very good. It's full of very...
It's okay, but they kind of just try to repeat.
But it's so many, like, what America think of Britain isms in it, which aren't true. We don't all live in mansions and castles and shit
and we don't get surrounded by sheep every time we travel out in a little mini car.
No.
But they had the same problem in National Lampoon's European Vacation. Their ideas of what it was like to be in Britain was just disastrous.
Yeah, but then they did that with every country they went to. Apart from that one scene when they're doing that dance, and then the dancer they slap him in the face, and he takes it really personal and ends up punching him.
Yeah,
that's
the way to go.
Yeah, Chevy Chase, you tosser.
Chevy Chase, that's another story.
With Three Men and a Baby.
Yes.
Do you think it was Leonard Nimoy's decision to put the carbon cutout of Ted Danson on the outside? Everyone thought it was a ghost.
I don't think. I mean,
who did that? Whose idea do you reckon that was?
I think it was an oversight, and I think somebody put it there as a joke, and because I think it was a on-set gag that they hadn't cleared up.
This is how pathetic I was when I was a kid.
Because I heard everybody.
I heard about it, but everyone was saying it was a ghost.
Yes.
We had no internet, so I was like, oh. So when I got the film, I put it on and waited for that part. When I saw it, I paused it, and it looks really creepy.
It does really spooky because they
and
created...
I couldn't sleep that night. It really freaked me out.
Yeah. I know it was so freaky because they created this whole lore about this boy who actually committed suicide in the apartment that they filmed in, but those shots were actually studio. People never actually realised that. Yes, they did do some shooting in an actual apartment,
right?
But a lot of it was coverage done in the studio. So. Good set dressing,
yeah,
really,
yeah.
If people actually believed that. But it was nice because it gave the film that boost because everybody wanted to rent it, everybody wanted to watch it because of that cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
So I think it helps to have a little bit of lore and a bit of urban legend in your film.
What we should have done with CACO3 is create something. Maybe while we were filming it, we were abducted by aliens and we lost like 4 hours.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
I thought it was this idea that for every podcast I put something in that's subliminal, and then when we get to the 100th episode, we realise that we put all these pieces together, and we don't realise that when we play them backwards. I was actually thinking about it the other day, but I think it's so ridiculous because we're not going to do that. But maybe we can do that in other. Yeah, but anyway, that's going way off topic.
Yeah, but since then...
Three Men and a Baby, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but then since then he did a film called The Good Mother, directed that. Never seen that.
No.
Body Wars, a short film. No. Funny About Love. No. Holy Matrimony. No. And in 1994 was a TV series he directed one episode of Deadly Games, which was called Kill Shot.
He obviously just picked projects that he wanted to pick.
Yeah.
Things that he wanted to do. Things that supported his ideas and beliefs. He didn't do anything because it was popular or because everybody expected him to do it.
Well, you think about it, his first on-screen debut was 1951.
Yeah.
And his last was 2009. That's an incredible career.
It is fast. It's amazing. And I mean, to go on until 83 is still people would be forgiven to believe that 83 is a good age to pass and die of old age.
Yeah.
But he didn't. I mean, had he not had the COPD, how long would he have gone for? I mean, that's...
Well, Vulcans live a lot longer than us, so he would have lived for about...
he would have outlived my son.
A few hundred,
Yeah, but how many more lives would he have touched? I mean, it's just remarkable. I mean, the thing is, people mock the conventions. People say that people look silly when they get dressed up as Klingons and things, and the whole language of Klingon is ridiculous. But you've got to step back and look at it and realise that what harm is coming to anybody from going to these places? I mean, what good is coming from it? What positive when
we're talking about films, it's easy to rip a film apart and tell everyone what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Why not look at it and say, okay, well, what's right with it?
What's right with it? And I think
what's wrong with grown-up men dressing as Klingons and hanging out with other men?
It might not be my kind of thing, and I might be a little bit odd about the idea of doing that, but do you know what? They're not. And maybe it's one heck of a confidence boost for them to actually be able to go out in public. Some people might even have that social anxiety that this is the one chance for them to just come out and really get to in tune for themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, There's nothing wrong, and I think maybe we ought to learn. I mean, what are we going to learn from the character that is Leonard Nimoy, the personality? What is that one thing that we can actually take with us on our reviews now? Is it to be a little bit more open-minded?
I think it's just to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Just live life by, you know, what you feel is right, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Or the one.
Or the one.
I have been, and always shall be, your friend. So I think it's time for us to wrap this one up.
I'm just thinking.
Have you got something else?
I just thought of something.
What have you? Oh,
Could we say sort of like, I want to say, if someone's put "Goodbye Spock" in Klingon?
How would you know?
That's a good point.
How are you going to search Klingon? One thing that we can say that the actual Vulcan salute was something that was brought in by Leonard Nimoy himself.
Was it really?
Yeah, that it was his own initiative. He said, "Well, what if we tried this thing?" And the director at the time said, "Yeah, just do it, whatever." You know, he didn't realize it was going to become the thing that would define Spock. And it's a part of his Jewish heritage. Much of what he brought into the character of Spock and the actual nomenclature of Vulcan came from his own from the Jewish culture.
Right.
So.
Interestingly, Zachary Quinto can't do that.
Why is that? You can't.
No. His fingers won't do it, so they have to have someone do it.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I read.
But can't they just break them and just refuse them again? I mean, can't
that's
he
the
just
easiest thing to do.
He could just commit himself just a little bit more. Come on, Zachary.
I just like the idea of him being stood there and some kid just hiding behind him and sticks his hand up. Yeah.
I mean, you could actually train your fingers to actually just by taping them up. I mean,
I don't know how true it is. It's just what I read.
It might not be true. I mean, William Shatner can't do it either. But I think whenever you see him doing it, he's obviously straining to do it because his hand shakes. So there you go. I don't think we can really add. I mean, there's so much we could talk about Leonard Nimoy, but there's everything's out there to be found.
I think it was just important to just
shed a bit of light on his life. And,
and
But that's just us. We're being true to ourselves.
Exactly.
There we go.
And that's the lesson we've learned from Leonard. So yes, goodbye, Leonard Nimoy.
Peace and long life.
Space. The final frontier.
Sit there and pluck that thing, or are you going to play something? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 your boat. Life is but a dream. Merrily, 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 your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Merrily, 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 gently down the stream.
I want to take this opportunity to let the people know how they can contact our friends at Frame by Frame. They do that podcast
You
thing.
know, two guys, they do the podcast, okay? So
They're nice. They're like a forest, which is a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And so if you want to do the communicating thing, the social networking thing.
Yeah, you can tweet those guys at Frame by Frame 78. If you'd like to go to the website, that will be www.roastedportions.com.
You don't need to do the www. It's implied that it's going to be the World Wide Web.
But people need to know that.
Okay, just go to roastedportions.com, okay? You go down on the right-hand side, you've got the social connections. You can talk to the people who do the show. You can even talk to the people who made that movie, you know, CACO3.
Who'd want to talk to those mooks?
I don't know, they made a pretty interesting movie, right? It was in black and white.
Yeah, black and white. I like
you know,
that.
We like black and white, and there was also some trees in that movie, too.
Oh, trees. It's like being in a forest, which is a beautiful thing.
Other connections, you can really get to know these people on YouTube as well, and if you want to comment on their podcast, I urge you to do that. Okay?
Yeah, I think it is a proper, really nice thing if people want to start contacting these guys.
Subscribe to them and comment. I mean, it's just polite, you know.
Also, you can email them at framebyframe78@gmail.com.
That's it. I think that's everything wrapped up, so.
Hey, I'm gonna go and plant a tree somewhere.
Okay, you go plant some trees.
I'm gonna go plant a tree.
I'm gonna go tweet.
You tweet, I'll plant a tree.
It's us. We're out of here.